The United States government has acknowledged the existence of unidentified flying objects, but their stance and level of knowledge about them is not entirely clear. Back in June 2021, the United States government released a report on unidentified aerial phenomena, which is the new term used to describe these mysterious aircrafts. The report, issued by the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, stated that there were 144 reports of unidentified aerial phenomena from 2004 to 2021, with only one of them having an identifiable explanation. As of right now, though, officials haven't released any more information on this topic, leading amateur researchers to suggest that they're not giving away all of the answers and that they're holding on to substantial evidence which could prove once and for all what these objects are. Going back a few years ago, a man overheard two security guards talking, and they detailed that in the early hours of the morning, something was being transported out of Edwards Air Force Base. He overheard the guards say that the object would be transported at around 1:30 in the morning, and so he decided to wait in his car to see what the Air Force Base was transporting. The man reported that in the distance he could see a police car with its lights on, and behind it were several other police cars escorting a large truck. The man said that he couldn't believe what he was seeing, and that the object on the back of the truck appeared to be in the shape of a disc. Many said that the man was brave for doing this, and that he may have caught genuine proof of a mysterious aircraft. Although the man was able to follow the military guards and capture proof of this encounter, others said that he was lucky not to have been spotted, and suggested that if he was caught by officers, then he may have been given a prison sentence. Oddly enough, although the man was able to capture clear photographs of an aircraft in the shape of a disc, some online users came forward and said that it wasn't an unidentified aircraft, and was actually an aircraft that belonged to the United States Navy. The aircraft in question is called the X-46B. According to military websites, the project was funded under a $635 million contract, which was awarded to the United States Navy in 2007. By January 2012, the total program cost had grown to over $800 million. The aircraft certainly looks futuristic, but according to military insiders, the program had a rough start, and not long after being awarded the program, it was soon scrapped in favor of a less stealthy aircraft. Interestingly, various military bases have been home to strange encounters, which have led former military workers to come forward with their strange encounters. One such event happened at the Edwards Air Force Base. Edwards Air Force Base sits amid the dusty plains of the Mojave Desert, home to the Earth's hottest place, Death Valley, where temperatures fluctuate from scorching hot in the summer to freezing cold in the winter. The desert is a hostile and dangerous place, but it's also one of America's most fascinating places for a number of reasons. Geographically, the area is unique. Furthermore, the first space shuttle mission, Columbia, landed at Edwards on its return to Earth in April 1981. However, there's a reason much more relevant to this video as to why we're taking a look at the base. Edwards Air Force Base, by location and the majority of its purpose, is just a regular military installation, but it also serves a joint purpose. The base essentially controls activities at the nearby Homey Airport, an area that in recent years has become synonymous with strange activity. One would imagine that some strange things must be seen late at night, that far out in the desert, surrounded by nothing but open air and dusty expanses. One night in 1965, an air traffic controller at the base had a strange encounter with what he believed was an aircraft in the shape of a disc. In 1965, Edwards, like US Air Force bases all over the country, were on high alert for suspicious activity in the skies. Tension with the Soviet Union was mounting, and the most shocking thing that radar controllers in the Nevada desert could have seen back then would have been a Russian aircraft. However, the objects that appeared above the base, apparently flying very high and very fast, appeared in sets of 7 to 12 and looked like pulsating lights against the night sky. However, the controllers couldn't be sure of what they'd seen, and as a precaution, a fighter jet was scrambled from the nearby George Air Force Base. Yet, the strange lights continued to climb into the night sky, far outpacing the fighter jet. Controllers noted that the craft seemed to simply fade away into space, becoming one of the stars. The thing about the Edwards incident is that the eyewitness reports were credible, so the crew at the base most definitely did see something that night. It's just not clear what it was that they saw. We don't know what sort of threat, or how bad a threat these mysterious aircrafts posed, but when the evidence was released only about 15 years ago, People realized that the government had gone to great lengths at the time to cover up these sorts of incidents. These mysterious aircrafts have been a thing of immense fascination across the world for thousands of years, but Americans were amongst the first to take a continued interest in the phenomena. And when multiple soldiers, those who we trust with keeping us safe, are left confused and ultimately convinced by their own sightings, you can't help but think that there might be something else out there. These are just a few examples of what military officials have encountered, and there's definitely no shortage of these types of stories. It's interesting when we hear about these types of sightings that have been witnessed by everyday people, but when military officials come forward and share their stories, they seem more credible. This is because these are the people that work around these areas on a daily basis, so they are used to seeing military equipment on a daily basis. No matter what your thoughts surrounding these incidents, one thing that can't be ignored is that there are only two possible conclusions to make when it comes to repeated UFO sightings: either a truth within the story or false. The United Kingdom is no stranger to these mysterious aircrafts, and since the early 1980s, there have been various mass sightings of strange aircrafts that don't match vehicles such as planes or helicopters. Described as one of the strangest aerial sightings ever made, bordering on the theory of being a possible religious experience, is that of the well-recorded incident referred to by researchers as the Devon flying cross sighting. While officers Roger Willey and Clifford Walcott were making their way back to the police station, driving from Holsworthy to Hatherley at around 4 a.m, they were diverted from their investigation when they spotted a series of floating lights in the sky that seemed to group together and take on the shape of a cross. According to the two officers, the sighting took place on the 24th of October back in 1967 and have yet to find an adequate explanation for what they encountered. The now retired officers recounted the following statement surrounding the incident. "We were making our way back between Holsworthy and Hatherley when we saw this unusual bright light in the sky. We both registered that we'd seen something. It was something we couldn't logically account for. It was something that I hadn't seen before, I haven't seen since, and something that nobody can explain exactly what it was." The two officers described the craft as a bright object in the shape of a cross, hovering slightly above the height of the tree line roughly 40 meters from where their car was parked. Unsure of what action would be most appropriate to take, the two officers began to pursue the lights, which began to pulsate for about 15 minutes while flying away from their car, still following the path of the road at about the speed of 80 miles per hour. It was at this point that the officers got a clear look at the lights, only to notice that something was off about their appearance. The two officers both described that the lights seemed to have been continually out of focus of their eyes, and said that it was as if they were viewing this object through wet glass. Roger provided a later statement describing the lights as they followed them for this 15-minute period. He said the following: "My view of it was that it was moving slowly. It wasn't a star, it was bright, and it was white. If you look at glass which has got rain on, it was the same sort of inference. It was a splash. It was just eerie." As Roger and Clifford continued following the craft, according to their witness account, at about 4:23 in the morning, the cross was joined by a second flying object that appeared to join the shape. It was also at this point that a third witness would enter the scene, a man by the name of Mr. Christopher Garner, a local resident of Hatherley, who also began to follow the light while driving down the same road. According to Christopher Garner, he originally believed that he was stuck in some kind of trance as the object passed overhead, unsure of what was real and what wasn't, recounting that the entire experience left him questioning whether or not he was experiencing a nightmare. This nightmare would not last for very long, however, as after the distance of 14 miles were passed, the object would fade away and seem to disappear in an instant, with no sign of the lights or the cross being anywhere nearby. The sighting was believed to have lasted from 4 in the morning to about 5 in the morning. Unfortunately for the men involved, this would not mark the end of this strange and otherworldly incident. Shortly following their sighting, officers Roger and Clifford claimed to have been approached by the British Ministry of Defence for the purpose of an ongoing investigation into the unidentified aircraft phenomenon, as well as warning them about coming forward with their encounter. Roger would later provide the following comment to the BBC national media. "We were visited by a boffin from the Ministry of Defence, who told us that we were still officers under the Official Secrets Acts, and they would rather we kept it to ourselves." Fortunately for researchers interested in the unknown, This approach from the British Ministry of Defence would do very little to discourage Officer Roger, Clifford, and motorist Christopher Garner from going to the news media and reporting their encounter. When reports investigated the claims surrounding the strange intimidation tactic taken by the British Ministry of Defence, they would provide the explanation that they were doing their own research into the claims made by the three men and found them to be entirely baseless, providing the additional explanation that the sighting was nothing more than a misidentification of Venus in the sky. This explanation would be put into question, however, as throughout that same month, numerous additional sightings of a flying cross would be seen all throughout the Devon region. Additionally, during the late 2000s, slowly released documents from the British National Archives would tell a different story, when unclassified documents would be uncovered surrounding the Devon flying cross encounter, believing the sighting to have been a genuine mysterious aircraft, directly contradicting the public statement made by the Ministry of Defence during 1967 surrounding the incident. So, what do you make of these mysterious sightings and encounters? Be sure to leave your questions and answers in the comments section below and help us to grow this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.